everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 8 of season 2 of Link Click, and I want to give first and foremost a very special shout out to Anime Annie over on Patreon, because I've been really excited about this episode for a number of reasons. One, if you've been on my channel for more than 5 seconds and have watched an 11 to 13 episode series, you know about my rule of 8, which basically means that in any 11 to 13 episode season or series, the 8th episode is always very special. We talked about it last week with episode 7 of why I'm excited. So I've been really looking forward to this episode all week. And so yesterday I had Friday off and I was like, I'm going to get on Link Click in the morning and go ahead and watch it. And luckily Anime Annie got in the Discord before I could get to it and was like, whoa, Romania, hold on. Apparently Crunchyroll, in their infinite wonderfulness, we're off on the subtitles by like 6 seconds. And that's a big deal. I know a lot of people are like, oh, 6 seconds doesn't sound like a lot of time, but just think, you have a 23-minute episode, 6 seconds is like... That's a lot of time. And in an episode that short, a lot can happen. And so we were talking about just how crazy it was, and Anime Annie was like, oh, it's awful. It's just going to throw the whole thing off. So I am very thankful that they told me when they did, because if I had started the reaction and not realized that, I would have been so disappointed and the reaction would have been ruined. So thank you for looking out for me and telling me that. So it took them 20 hours to fix them. Anime Annie sent a letter to Crunchyroll, and I'm sure several others did as well, but thankfully it's been fixed, so very good. So I'm recording this on a Saturday when I normally do Friday, but that's all right. So, but yeah, I'm super excited. I've got some comments from episodes 5 and episode 6 before we start, but last episode, Lu came in like a big hero at the end. Good for him. I don't think they're out of the water yet, literally, but I don't think that they're out of trouble yet. I think that there's a very good chance that Tian Chen could do something at the last minute to make our anxiety spike even more. So we'll see, right? But I do have some comments I want to get to before we dive into this episode this morning. I've been so excited. So, I do want to make note that Skywatcher, as well as there was another person on Twitter who pointed this out. I want to get who that was. Layla's World, Layla Rambles, noted this for me, that after episode 5, which was an extremely hard to watch and deeply personal episode, that thankfully Studio Lawn, who works on Link Click, they put out a PSA talking about the real dangers of domestic violence, which I thought was very smart and very appropriate to do. And they included some images which I thought were really, really good. And I'm going to kind of save them over here on the corner so I can put them when I edit. But they're images of Ling, Lu, and Cheng talking about domestic violence. The one with Ling says domestic violence is not only in stories, but it still happens around us. Which I think is very important, that it's very solemn and very realistic. And then I like this idea, and these are all translated, the original's obviously in Chinese, but it says the home should not be a sanctuary for violence. And I really like that. I like that usually we think of the home as a sanctuary, but oftentimes, sadly, it's where violence occurs and nobody talks about it, which is really sad. And then the one that has Lu says, guard a future without violence, which I think is very appropriate and kind of hinting a little bit too at the same time, because you have Ling saying that things are still happening in the present. You have the idea of Cheng representing the past, which is, the home should not be a sanctuary for violence, and showing him going in the past and realizing that with Tian Chen. And then you have Lu, who's like guarding against a future. Now, we've been talking about Lu maybe being tied with going into the future or not. Is that, not only giving out a PSA against domestic violence, but also potentially putting in spoilers for the series? I wouldn't put it past the studio, not one bit, but I am thankful that people noted and talked about that. I think that's really, really appropriate to bring up. But also, Seppi pointed out, Seppi said in their comment from episode 5 that Lu Min's brother was hinted at having powers. I was so confused. I'm like, when did that happen? So I don't know if that's true or not. I'll probably ask Patreon about it when I'm done with this episode, but I was like, I don't recall Lu Min's brother being hinted at having powers. Lu Min was possessed, but I don't recall his brother being hinted at having powers either. They just noted that he was a really good person according to the dad, which we can't hold much truth with that of how do you define good? Like, what defines good for you? But yeah, I don't know. I was a little confused by that, so maybe they were just confused. There's been a lot of confusion with this series, so I don't put it past it. But yeah, I don't think the brother of Lu has any powers, and if he has, I don't think that's been talked about at all in this series, so I'm not sure where they're getting that from. Algumalgium asked if the kid being Cheng is too obvious of a twist. And this is the problem with a series like this, right? Because it's all original. It's Donghua original. We really have nothing to base it off of. And I feel like the problem with that, I used to be on a lot of forums for manga chapters when they were being released, like with Bleach and One Piece. I was on the forums for those when I was in college. And we tend to let our imaginations get really wild and think of all of these crazy convoluted things. And we've talked about it a little bit in the Discord, but sometimes, you try to think of like, what's the craziest theory it could be? And oftentimes you get kind of disappointed when you find out that something isn't as elaborate as you thought it was. So I'm kind of torn with Algumalgium's comment where, do I think that it could be Cheng and the series is just thinking it's clever and we're not going to figure it out, or just doing like a Horikoshi with My Hero Academia and putting the reveal in front of you and just you have to wait until it's confirmed? It could be, but I do agree with Algumalgium. I personally think it's almost too obvious of a twist too. Like the voice and the maturity, we'll talk about it in a second, doesn't quite match Cheng. My theory up until these comments that I'm telling you all had been that I think either Chan or Cheng from the future was possessing the kid, whether it's Cheng or not, and having them talk to Tian Chen. That's my theory, that the kid is possessed, and that's why we don't see their eyes, so we can't see that they're like glowing golden or whatever. That's my theory. But as we talk here in the next couple comments, that may not be the case. So Sunray pointed out that the Chinese government puts an age restriction on playing video games, which, again, I could never imagine that happening in the U.S. I feel like there would be an uprising if that were to happen, but that's interesting. But again, China puts a little bit more focus on their academics than the U.S. does, so for better or worse. But that's good to know. And then Tony Simi, this is where I'm getting at. Tony Simi, as well as Alexander Q, pointed out, could the kid be Lu Guang before their hair turns white? Could the kid be Lu Guang? Could Lu Guang... I don't think Lu Guang is possessing someone because he doesn't have that power. He can just go into the past and see the past or future, potentially. But I do wonder if Lu Guang is not a time traveler himself, could this kid be Lu Guang before his hair turns white, before he himself gets powers? Could be. Could very well be. I don't know. I think that's a very big possibility, though, and it would be a neat red herring if we think it's Cheng and it turns out to be Lu, and if Lu's been the friend all along. That would be an interesting twist as well. So that's fun. I also like Tony Simi pointing out that the message on the photograph that was given to Lu that they used to go back in the past in episodes 5 and episodes 4, if that message on there was a way for Tianqi to document if something had happened to her brother. So if I talked about the last episode, are the siblings both still alive? Is it just Tianqi that's still alive and her brother died from the head wound from the hammer? We don't know. Did she write the message on the back of the photo to give to Lu and Cheng being like, save my brother from dying? I don't know. But I think that could be something really interesting. And the doctor in episode 4 did say that Tianqi could eventually talk or stop being silent. And so it's very possible that Tianqi is talking in this. It's not the brother possessing her or whatever. This series isn't giving us definitive answers. So again, it's just all speculation at this point. SQQLBH314 talked about how, and I forgot about this, from episode 1 of season 1, the established rules, you can only enter a photo once to go back into the past. And so we were talking about the connection being lost between Cheng and Lu. It's possible, we've theorized, that Tianqi's power activated in that moment she was holding the photo of her and her mom, which allowed her to possess the mom who killed the dad. So it is possible that in that moment she was activating her power, she was using the photo. So that created a time altercation where, oh no, her power is being used with the photo. Now it's been used, so Cheng can't go back in the past and use it again. So there was like a little mess up in the time continuum, which booted him out of the photo. It's like, nope, you can't be here anymore. We've changed the future, altered the photo. It can't be used. And so it knocked him out. and that's what made him go back to the present. I like that theory a lot. I think it holds a lot of water, holds ground. I'm all for it. I like it. And speaking of which, I liked Anime Annie's comment adding to it saying, could one of the siblings, like Tianchi or Tian Chen or both, be a sociopath or a psychopath? Could be. I hadn't thought about it, but the whole thing with the photo and all of this, if you go back to episode 4, Cheng is obviously an empath. He has a heart of gold, and him acting as Tianchi, it is the question of, we don't really know how Tianchi was in the past. We don't know. All we know is how she acts through Cheng's perspective of Cheng imitating her. But it's very likely that we're giving Tianchi, we're thinking Tianchi's all innocent and everything. She may not be. She may have been a sociopath or a psychopath, and we don't know, because the way that she's acting, if it is her now, either her or Tian Chen, the way they're acting now is a little bit off kilter and could lend to that psychopath, sociopath state. So yeah, it is very possible that's the case, and we're just viewing it through Cheng-colored lenses, you know? So that's interesting. Also, based on how Chinese birth dates are written, the twins' birthdays are June 11th, so they're Gemini. I swear, every series, the twins have to be Geminis. It's just like, it's too good for an author to pass up. One time I want to see them both be like Leos. just be a bunch of Leos. I feel like they're either Libras or they're Gemini, because you have the scales and then you have Gemini, which are the two faces. I feel like any twins in Donghua anime, they're always Geminis or Libras. I want to see some Capricorn twins. I'm not asking for much. But and then June 11th, you have 2 ones back to back. Seems very fitting. But then finally, Anime Annie was talking about how the knife that stabs the mom, they said they went back and looked, and the drawer where the hammer is, like the little proclivity drawer. My grandpa calls it a proclivity drawer. It's like all your knickknacks and stuff. The drawer didn't seem to have a knife in it. So where did the knife come from? Which, you know, there was a dresser the dad was next to when he was stabbed. There was a dresser with all these different doors. He very well could have opened one up real quick, grabbed a knife and stabbed her, or she could have grabbed the knife after the fact and killed herself, or some third party came in and killed her. It's got to be one of the 3, right? So which is it? And this series isn't giving us answers. So yeah, we just don't know. We just don't know. What can we do with it? I'm very excited. This is the rule of 8. It's the 8th episode. I can't believe that this is going to be us entering the 3rd act. I fully expect there to be, at this point, a 3rd season. There has to be. Has to be a 3rd season, because we are not getting... I thought we'd have so many more answers by this point. I thought the story would have gone in so many different directions at this point, but it's been very surprisingly self-contained. And I think that's why a lot of people are kind of unexpected about it, because last season we were going from like place to place. We were visiting mountains, we were going in, you know, to different cities, and we were doing all this thing that we're kind of like going on a little world tour of China last season. And this season has literally been within a police station and a hospital the whole time. So it's literally been in 2 locations, and that's it. And it's been very, very isolated and contained, which is not a bad thing. I've really enjoyed this season, but it is definitely seems like it's building up mystery for something to happen. It's building up mystery for us to go a certain direction, and I'm like, there has to be a 3rd season. There just has to be. I won't accept otherwise. But yeah, who knows? I don't know what's gonna happen, y'all, but I'm really excited. So I hope y'all are too. I've talked enough. No, come here, Ruby. Come here. My dog wants me to like rub her stomach, so you have to come over here and lay down so I can do it. My leg won't reach back that far. So I've talked for nearly 15 minutes. We're gonna dive in and see what we get. So I hope you all are excited. I definitely am. But we're gonna start Link Click Season 2, Episode 8, and we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. The rule of 8 has not let us down. This definitely felt like the entrance into the final act. I feel like, isn't it so funny how far we've come? When this season started, I was thinking that there was a chance Lu was going to be dead, which he's bleeding out and in the clutches of our villains. So Could still happen. But at the start of the season, I thought that Lu was going to be dead or he was going to be incapacitated for most of the season, which has not been entirely true. And I thought Cheng was going to have to take the lead and was going to have to solve this mystery to find out who the Red Eyes was, which is not changed, actually. And so this series has gone on this big roller coaster of, oh, no, we think Lu is dead. No, he's safe. No, he's captured again. And so oddly enough, as we go into the final act, this episode definitely is that transition into the final act. We have what, 3 episodes left, 3 or 4. I don't know if there's 11 or 12 episodes of this season. I think there's 12, but my heart is also telling me 11. But I'm watching another series that only has 11 episodes too, so maybe that's what's getting to me. But if we have 4 episodes, we have basically 4 episodes to figure out certain things. So the final act of this season, we have a number of things that we need to accomplish. The main thing is going to be rescuing Lu Guang. That's going to be the big thing. Rescuing Lu is now the priority of this season. Crazy talk, right? But I feel like Lu went after. That's the thing, though. But did they or did they not? That's the thing. I want to apologize to everybody I talked to in the last episode that they were like, oh, it's Cheng possessing Lu, attacking them, and I was like, no, that's not the case. Sorry, I was wrong. That was the case. So Lu, as it turns out, was possessed by Cheng when he saved Cheng. It's just a big old time loop, right? And that's the thing. We need to rescue Lu Guang. We need to know about Lu. Know about Lu. What he knows, his origins, etc. And I feel like this season, like I said at the beginning, I think there's definitely going to be a 3rd season. I feel like the end of this season, now that we know Lu's been captured, it feels like it's setting up for the live action. You know what they're going to do? They are going to give us just, the cliffhanger is going to be about Lu and his past. And then we're going to stop. And then the live action is going to pick up where this left off at and give us that backstory about Lu. And then we're going to go into season 3 with that knowledge to solve the rest of the equation. Do I think they're going to stop Qian and Red Eyes this season? I don't know, because I'm kind of torn. At this point, it seems like Qian, we're getting more about obviously what they want to do. The theory that Qian has been trying to steal Cheng away to use his powers to turn back time, as Cher would say, seems to be legit. Like we have the idea that Qian, what he wants is to change the past. He wants to change the past for his wife and child. I mean, that is a very basic, understandable motivation. And at this point, Qian seems like he's so devastated with the current timeline, he is totally fine with wrecking everyone else's timeline if he gets to be happy. Totally makes sense. But then we also can kind of see that Tian Chen, he wants to change the past. He wants to change the past to potentially save his mom, maybe, and his sister. Maybe. I looked at the Discord before coming on here, and pretty much there was a lot of things I'm going to talk about in this episode that basically was talked about in the Discord. But Anime Annie brought out the idea that maybe getting hit in the head with a hammer altered Tian Chen's personality. Now look, back in episode 5, I said that Tian Chen was exhibiting a little bit of a dynamic similar to his dad, and everybody was like, no, he's just being a protective brother. And I don't think that's wrong. I think that he is being a protective brother. Absolutely. I think that's part of it. But I think it could be both. I think you can be a protective brother that is just trying to care for your sister, but he's also carrying some of those traits of his dad too. So I think it could be both. And from this episode, you know, you can say maybe the hammer caused his personality to more align with his dad and change. You could say that. You could say it's been there all along. You could say that too. I don't think that any of those scenarios are wrong. The fact remains that he's pretty much kind of a sociopath. Or a psychopath, whatever. I mean, I'd have to get out the Death Note notes that I took back from that series, but he possibly is a psychopath or a sociopath. I love that Anime Annie pointed that out before episode 8 came out to kind of note that. But yeah, I think so too. I also will talk about it as we go, but I feel like Tianchi has not been involved in this entire thing. No. Now, there is a question of the timeline, and my dogs are barking like crazy dogs. But I do think we're gonna have to go through this episode and talk about the timeline, talk about Tianqi and Tian Chen, how they're connected. I'm glad the eyelash theory worked out. Good on you, Anime Annie. But so the final act, we're rescuing Lu Guang. We need to know about his origins. Is this going to tie into the live action? I would actually like that. What I don't want at this point is for all the answers to come out in like this big exposition dump. I don't want that. I think this show is smarter than that. I don't want everything in the last episode to suddenly all be explained and we be like, what's happening? I don't want that. And I don't think this show is going to do that because it's smarter than that. So I think they're going to frame it to where we're going to find out about Lu Guang and his past in the live action. And then it's going to tie from there into season 3. But the question is, are we going to stop Qian and Red Eyes this season or what? We have 4 episodes left, 3 to 4 episodes. A part of me says no. I think a part of me is that they're going to rescue Lu Guang, we hope. They're going to rescue Lu Guang, we hope. And maybe but are they going to run away? What are they going to do about Chong's ability? They seem like they want Chong's ability to go back in the past, but the question is, from that perspective, like how? Because I think by this point, Tian Chen has been around Cheng enough to know that Cheng's not just going to give him the power. So is the fact of the matter that Tian Chen wants to possess Cheng and use the power himself? That very much could be. So yeah, the idea that Tian Chen can possess someone in the present, right? He can possess someone. He can possess someone in the present by touch or by photo. The only thing is it has to stay in the present. So the possibility is that we have Lu over here. Lu can see into the past and possibly future, but he can't interact with it. He can just see things. He can only see things, right? And then you have Tian Chen, who has the ability, Tian Chen through touch, it's like a sensory thing. He has the ability through touch to possess, but it's only in the present, right? So it's just in that one. He can't go back into the past. That's the problem. And then you have Cheng, who I was very surprised in this episode. Cheng did not need Lu, and I forget that. I forget that Cheng can use his power without Lu, because when Lu was gone, I was like, oh, well, he can't go through the photo because Lu's not there. That's not necessarily true. He can go back into the past through the photograph, but he doesn't have a guide without Lu. So Lu are the eyes, and Tian Chen is the touch, right? And so then Cheng, you know, his is kind of a mixture of both, where through touch and the photo, he can go back into the past. But he's been using Lu to kind of be his guide through that, because Lu can kind of tell him what to expect. So the idea is that Qian, because Tian Chen, because he can't go back into the past, Qian and him are working together, that he's going to possess Cheng and then use his power to go back into the past. And he just couldn't do that at the moment because they were trying to get him away. He didn't have time to just use him to go back into the past to begin with. So that's terrifying. They basically do not need to get their hands on Cheng. Essentially, that's what I'm getting at. Qian and Tian Chen are trying to take Cheng away to use his powers to change the past. And Lu is like, nope, that's a bad idea. We can't do that. But it seems like Lu kind of knows that this is a giant causality loop, that everything is just one big timey-wimey loop, as Doctor Who would say. And so we just need to like spiral it and make it keep going. So now the OP makes sense that you have Tian Chen and Lu side by side. They are both trying to use Cheng's powers, right? But I think whereas Tian Chen is trying, I think Lu is actually trying to change. It would be interesting if Lu was trying to change the future and Tian Chen was trying to change the past, right? Tian Chen is trying to use Cheng's powers to go back and alter the past, and that's what Qian wants him for, just like Tian Chen wants him for. But Lu is actively trying to change the future. He's trying to use the past to change the future. He's trying to go back and make things to where Cheng lives versus them going back, because I think that flashback that Lu has of Cheng in his arms is something that happens in the future now. I think now, looking back, I think it's something happening in the future, and Lu is trying to change things to where that doesn't happen. But he's got to keep things going a certain direction to get to that point where he can change it at the last minute. Okay. This show is making my brain hurt a lot. But yes. So now it's the fact of who, I think that in the final act, the question is like, are we going to rescue Lu? That is a question. And are we going to save Cheng? Those are the questions. The scary thing is, I think at this point, Qian and Tian Chen, they don't care about time loops. They don't care about altering the future. To them, it doesn't matter. To them, they have no future because their past has been destroyed. So for them, both of them are thinking, we don't care. We just want to go back and have things the way we want them to be. And whatever happens to y'all, we don't care. So that's terrifying because that just makes it to where they're not thinking about, and I'm sure they have thought about like all the repercussions their actions are having. They're just like, they don't care at this point. They're like, well, if our future is going to be miserable anyway, we might as well go back and try to have a nice past. And it's like, so yeah, let's go through this episode and talk about this. I like that this series, again, one thing that I think a lot of people get so impatient with link click, but I'm thinking if you just give it time, it will answer your questions. It's just going to tease you and drag you through the mud until they get there. Because the whole idea of how Ling got to the riverside, there were so many comments that people were like, oh, Ling is suspicious. And I'm like, no, she got the information from Lu or Cheng of where the location was. Now, as far as we know, the picture was taken. So there was the picture taken of the window by Lu, right? And it was saved on the phone. So then it was saved on the phone with the timestamp of 1842, right? And then we know that Cheng inhabited Lu's, he entered Lu. I'm like, oh God, everyone's gonna go crazy with this. He entered Lu, and then at 1855, he made his move with the window. So he had some time to think about it. So now the question is, did Lu or Cheng send the location to Ling? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. It got her to the point. It finished the causality loop. We're good. We know that Lu was still possessed by Cheng when fighting Tian Chen. What has been so annoying about this season is that they don't keep the eyes glowing to let you know if people are possessed or not until they just conveniently decide that they need to tell you that. Because from the last episode, when Lu was hovering over Cheng, there were no golden eyes. So you didn't know if it was Lu or Cheng, right? And then you don't know if Cheng was possessed by red eyes until it was shown to you. So it's so frustrating. We don't know exactly if Cheng was still possessing Lu when he was taken or not. That remains to be seen. Now, obviously, we think that he has because it's been 12 hours. It's been within 12 hours. So that would lead us to believe that the Lu at Qian and Tian Chen's is still Cheng. The only thing that messes with that theory is that we've seen that Lu's wound has started to open up and bleed again. And so some people in the Discord were wondering if that was a sign that Lu inhabited Cheng again, that Lu regained control, not inhabited Cheng, but Lu regained control because the wound had opened up again. But it very well could be that, I mean, think of it this way. It could be that Cheng inhabiting Lu's body, like for a moment, he was able to like run out and go do these things because, you know, Cheng was kind of overriding Lu's system. But now that he's had time to sit there and be tied up, his body is caught up and is now injured, right? It's like he's not being Cheng inside of Lu's body hasn't healed Lu. The wounds are still there. It's just kind of one of those things like when you're on adrenaline, you don't think about it. And then when you sit down and it all starts to like soak in, then it's like, oh no, your body catches up, the adrenaline's gone. And now, yeah, you're bleeding out. Again, the wound has opened up. So that does create a problem of now we're back to square one, back to episode 1's issue of Lu bleeding. We need to save him before he dies. The only thing that makes me feel somewhat better is that Qian does not want Lu to die there with him. He's like, nope, don't need this to happen on my watch because that will just give them rightful cause. Which is so interesting with Qian's principles, because Qian, even as this villain, he is still like principled enough as a lawyer to be like, I don't want to have any causality for me being tried as an accomplice in murder. So I'm like, you're actively trying to change the past and destroy the fabric of time itself, but you still don't want to be a suspect for a homicide. I'm like, it's so weird. Like, I do like that there's that consistency with this character, though, that he's all been all about, we can't go by assumptions, we go by evidence. And if Lu dies there, well, that's evidence to try him for homicide. So he's like, nope, can't have this happen on my watch. I love that attention to detail, and it keeps him just in character even while he's a Shakespearean villain. It's great. It's great. So yeah. So we have that going on, but she goes down to the riverside. Ling is MVP in this episode. Freaking MVP. And also, if you notice, I want to look at her phone, her chats, and there's somebody, Liam Gallagher. Why is Liam Gallagher on her phone saying, I said maybe Liam Gallagher? Why? Why is she talking to Liam Gallagher? Isn't that an actor? What is happening? And then she sees like a message from Lu that gives the timestamp, right? I want to go back to this. Crunchyroll is acting up, of course. I'm glad Crunchyroll did not act up during the episode, though. That's wonderful news. Glad that wasn't the case. But yeah, so then she goes back, gets the timestamp. I want to go back to my phone picture here where she's looking at it and realizes that there's coordinates. I wanted to see if there was like a timestamp of when the coordinates were sent. But there's not. The phone conveniently cuts out when that would be. It just says by the riverside. But I love that. So yeah, I feel like Cheng being the source and center of this entire season is that he has this power that others want. Again, that calls into question, how did Cheng get these powers? He doesn't even know. Lu's not really telling us. So again, I feel like the live action is going to explain that for us, but we're not there yet. So then we go down to the riverside, and Lu, I like that Cheng snaps out of it, and he's like, what the hell's going on? And again, this is what's so fun about it, is that he's like, why are you here, Lu? And it's fun because it doesn't really, it's not like you seeing yourself and it causing like a rip in the time stream, because Cheng is inhabiting Lu's body, so it doesn't really affect it in the moment, right? I love it. They just figure it out after the fact. My question is, again, we see Lu go after Tian Chen and get taken by Tian Chen. But then it's like, was that Lu or was that Cheng? Right? I think it makes sense now that it was Cheng going after Tian Chen, because Cheng was like, okay, Cheng, it's such an interesting thing, because I don't think it was Lu, because Cheng is still inhabiting Lu's body, right? Or is it? That's the question. The big question with this episode is, do we go back? Do we inhabit Lu in the photo and try to keep the causality loop going? Or was that not a thing? Like, what is that? Like, how, it's the big question of, was that intended? Did Lu, the question is, you know, we're repeating history. Did Lu do all of these things without being inhabited by Cheng, and then went and was taken by Tian Chen rather, for a reason? Or did Cheng do something he wasn't supposed to do, and it's created this loop? The ending with the bathroom scene, I think that's a total red herring. I don't think that anything's going to come of it. I think that he's going to go towards the bathroom to open the door and see Cheng, and then something's going to happen that distracts him. But I don't know. I don't think the timeline is necessarily going to get altered next episode. I think it's just a cliffhanger to make us freak out for no reason. And things are going to resolve themselves next episode. I'm pretty sure, like, Chow's going to call him or something, and he's going to, like, forget it. I think that's what's going to end up happening. I don't think the time stream is going to be completely undone at this point, because we've got to go rescue Lu, and we can't have any setbacks. But I don't know. But in any case, I think Cheng was taken by Tian Chen while still being possessed by Cheng. Now, the one good thing is, hopefully they can save Wang. Hopefully she is not going to die, even though she's been bashed in the head by this baseball bat. I don't hold out much hope she's going to live, but there's like a sliver of hope that if she does live, she would have info that could possibly lead them to arresting Qian. So we just gotta hope that she lives, because if she manages to live and can help them bust Qian by having, like, she's like, oh, it was him, then that's the one sliver of hope that we've got in all of this. But I don't know. I feel bad for Chow, because Chow's been put through the ringer and he's just like a mess. And it's that reflection of that, him being a mess and being so over emotional, is why he gets so on to Tianchi when they get her. And I felt so bad for her, because she seems to be, it's funny, we've been debating this whole time about Tianchi and Tian Chen working together. I don't think that's the case. I think Tianchi's pretty innocent in all of this. I think maybe she's like wondering she seems like she's been psychologically affected the most by all of this. And they say that, like, she still can't talk. It's just like, I feel bad for her. I feel like she's being used in all of this, and she's just trying to get her brother back, which we'll talk about the photo here in a little bit. But yeah. So, man, the scene where Qian comes back into what is this place? It looks like a studio. It looks like a theater set. There's different set pieces in different rooms with windows you can see through. It looks like a theater or a set for a production, which, what a final set piece for a conclusion to this arc, that we're going to a theater where people have been acting this whole time. The theme of acting is so good, because you have Tian Chen acting like Tianchi. You have Qian acting like a lawyer that doesn't know anything when he knows all sorts of things. You have Lu, who clearly is withholding information at this point and has been acting himself. You have Cheng, who's acting like Lu. You have Ling, who's acting to get information from Tianchi. We don't know if Tianchi's acting or not, or if I feel like she isn't acting. She's truly, damaged by all this. But there's so many actors and, like, different facades put on in this season. It's so on the nose and fitting that the climax could possibly happen in a theater. I love it. I freaking love it. Absolutely. But this scene where Qian's like, oh, so did you get him? Doesn't say Cheng, just says get him. And Tianjin's like, mm-hmm. Also, if you look, yeah, behind the walls there are little mirrors with lights on it, like you're putting on makeup, like you're getting ready. So it makes sense that Tian Chen came here, put on the wig, got dressed up as the sister. That's why they've had the mask on. Makes so much sense. I love it. I love the theme of it. But yeah, that moment where he's like, oh, you got him, right? And then he opens up the door and sees Lu. Now, the irony is they do have Cheng, potentially. They just don't realize it. So Tian Chen may not have necessarily lied. He just didn't realize he lied. I love it. I freaking love it. It's amazing. If Cheng ends up getting out as Lu and revealing that it's him to both of them, I love Qian opening up the door, seeing that it's not Cheng, and slowly closing the door. Like that, anytime a villain, like over-the-top villains that like throw things and are like violent, outwardly violent, are not that scary to me. But a villain that just calmly closes the door, that's terrifying. The fact they can control that anger. And Qian is very good at controlling anger, which is like, it's like, oh my God, what are we doing? And then Tian Chen's like, well, he appeared before I got on board, so it was I had to just take him. Didn't have any options at this point. And so then they're like, well, how did he disappear without a trace? And then I see the coffee pot's gone, right? And they're like, he snuck out of the ward. So here's the thing, when they looked at the security footage, we were focused on the broken window, and he snuck out with the shoes on. So, okay. But now, he's like, what happened? So something's happened. Either, like, is that footage going to be the same, or is he going to get distracted? I feel like it's a red herring at the end of the episode, but we don't know. And then those guys show up saying that they need to find Lu. And Cheng's like, if I hadn't lost consciousness. The good thing is that because Chow has talked to Wang, they know that it's the power of the red eyes that possessed both Cheng and them. They're not totally in the dark about that. So that's good. I'm glad. They're like, we found an important clue that Qian was involved in the case. It was the last case that he took over as a police officer. So we get this flashback. It was the murder of Li Tianchi and Li Tom. Oh, what did he say here? The last one he took over was the murder of Li Tianchi and Lin Tianxin's parents. Okay, there we go. And we have the idea of the hammer hitting him over the head. And then there's a thing with the knife. We still don't know about the knife. Like, and so then we see the kids. Now, when the kids go out, there's an officer leading them away. But there's her, and she has blood all over her. Like, the brother has the head wound, right? But the brother has the head wound, but Li Tianchi has blood like all over her sleeves, all over her dress, and she's grabbing a hold of him. So she didn't have the blood all over her when she was with him earlier, right? So did she go out and like grab at the mom and was like shaking her and got blood on her then? Or what happened? What happened? And we see Qian like looking down as they walk away, and then we see the brother who looks like he just looks so unaffected. He's just like nothing is wrong. And then we see him like look back towards him. And then we see the two of them there, and the sister and the brother. And shortly after the case, he resigned, right? And the files on them were secretly erased as well, and they vanished. So they obviously Qian went back and got the kids. Now the question, of course, is, what I was wondering is, do we think that Qian has an ability similar to Lu? I was wondering that. Tony Simi brought up the idea in the comments and on Discord about the idea of Qian maybe being able to see, because they were talking about, they're like, isn't it weird that he like saw the wife there at the doorway, and it was kind of the way that he was seeing that scene back in episode 4 was very similar to how Lu's vision was whenever Red Eyes was attacking him in the first episode. So is there this idea that Qian is able to see similar to Lu? He can't act on it, but he can guide similar to Lu. And maybe his powers were just activated and he realized that, and when he saw the kids, he was like, oh, I can use you. I need to go back and get you. All right. It seems like Tian Chen is the only one that has the red eye power. And Tian Chen's attitude this entire episode matches up with the red eye from season 1 that's looking for the friend, that's doing all this. It seems like that kind of psychotic attitude that like of a psychopath is kind of like Tian Chen. It matches a lot. So lots of things make more sense now taking that into account. But Qian may have had that power similar to Lu, and now he's trying to find a way to act on it like Lu is. And then that means that Tian Chen, and Lu are all trying to use Cheng. Poor Cheng. So meanwhile, I really like the idea that they go through the ward and everything. They find the phone, and then by random happenstance, Cheng, he saw the passcode one time. Yes. So the question is, it's like who's influencing who at this point. Now, Cheng knows the passcode, right? He knows what it is. And so they're like, it unlocked. And Ling's like, why would Lu Guang tell you this? And she's like, what does 091305 mean? Again, I feel like this is Lost, like the TV series Lost, where there's all these numbers, and it's like, what does that mean? 091305. Like, why would that be your passcode? Is it something random, or does it have meaning? That would be September 13th, 2005. I'm just going to type in September 13th, 2005, China. Anything important happen then? Anything important happen then? Don't see anything there. That natives born that day is sign of the rooster. What happened on September 13th, 2005? Supernatural debuted. As far as the show goes, no worries. So it says that day was 17 years ago to the day. So when is Cheng's birthday? So when is Cheng, let me find out. Cheng Xiaoxi birthday, link click. When is his birthday? I think he's older than 17 though, right? It says link click birthdays. Let's see when any people's birthdays are. Cheng's he's an Aries, April 15th. Lu Guang is October 24th. He's a Scorpio. and Ling's is March 16th. He's a Pisces. So let me see. Is 09, 13, 05, does that have any significance? I wonder if it's like a coordinate. Is it a coordinate? I'm trying to see if it has anything to do. I feel like maybe it's just a red herring and it doesn't have any point at all. I'm not seeing anything on here, but I think that is curious. Like, what does that mean? And Cheng's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. He said he just saw it by accident. Now, saw it by accident. Lu seems like a pretty cautious person. Do we think Lu let him see it by accident, or do we think that Lu did it in front of him, hoping that at one point he would remember the passcode and be able to use it? I'm going to think that it's the latter. I don't think that anything Lu Guang does is by accident. Doubt that. So then, yeah, we see the picture as it's shown. It's the photo of the window so that he can go back in the past and use it. And so the question is, his intention might not have been to take photos, but he wanted to leave a photo at the moment as a time marker to let us know which could become the turning point when necessary. So it's like giving this idea of giving the choice, like, do you use it or do you not use it? And then the question is, do we go back and change the past or not? And then I'm sure that Chow felt, you know, worried, because he's like, well, there's a lot of factors that could happen. I'm leaving this possible marker. Is Cheng going to act on it, or is he not going to act on it? Is Cheng going to be saved? What do I do? Like when you're messing, I like that they treat time travel very seriously in this series. Like, there's all sorts of effects that could happen. And then we go back to the short where Ling is like, you know, he was never really skilled, Lu was, in punches or kicks. So the person who thought with Li was potentially you, was not actually him, but you, which makes sense. His actions there seem very much like Cheng's, and Cheng's like, if I don't enter the photo, would everything in the past turn out differently? That's the question. I mean, is it that Lu is not good at martial arts? Cheng did possess him from the start, and that's how we get to where we are. Or was Lu lying to Ling and he actually is good at martial arts and Cheng didn't possess him? And this whole thing is just creating a... Because Lu told him not to go in the past and change things. But if he's going in the past and not changing things, just making sure things happen as they did... Like, what do we do with that, right? There is the question of what we do. And so then we go back where Chan's like, I don't want this half person still bleeding in my office. We need to find a way to bring Cheng Xiaoxi here. I like these pacing back and forth, like we have to get this to work. And Tian Chen does not seem remotely worried about it. Now, the poster of the man and the woman, I took it as, it very much seems like a Romeo and Juliet poster, which star-crossed lovers, of course. But I also take it as, when he's talking about changing the past, that Chan wants to go back to being with his wife. Like, he's doing this all to get back to his wife. Like, that's the only reason he's doing this. It's a very, like, dark romance, right? And so then, that's when they're like, oh, who's been found? And they're said, according to the police, they received a report 2 nights ago. So these kids showed up and saw this, like, this garage being like, there's someone inside, and they opened it up and saw, oh, look, let's have some fun in here. And just then they're like, we can rewrite everything in the past. We come back to Chan. And then we see the crane game, who's there, and it's her in the corner. And we see the 3 crane games just like in the OP, including finding your lost sister. So, back in the OP, the monster coming out of the toy is Tian Chen, dressed up as Tian Chi, right? And we have the zipper shirt with the monster inside. Yeah, absolutely. And then, but then we also see, here's the thing. There's a part of me that believes that Tian Chi has never been dressed up as either one of them. Because we see him later in the outfit that he wore at the hospital giving Lu the photograph, and then was in the same outfit there, and then they just had a wig on to be her. So the question is, I do think there's a part of me that believes that Tian Chen has been, like I said in the last episode, has been playing both. I only said it was Tian Chi when it's really been Tian Chen. I was like, well, maybe Tian Chi's been playing both and the brother died. No. But I think that Tian Chen was both of them. He dressed up as himself with the shorter hair, gave Lu the photograph, knowing it would lure them in, and to the moment, to knowing about them, and that way they would want to go back and talk to them at the police station. They'd want to talk to them at the police station, and then that's what they would use to get a hold of Cheng. That's how they would lure Cheng in. That's how they could do it. Because otherwise, why would Cheng go to the police station unless he knew about the girl's past as such? Now, that could be one scenario. But I don't think Tian Chi had the short hair and dressed up as the brother to give him the photos. So I wish we had confirmation, but I feel at this point, my personal belief is that Tian Chen has been playing both himself and the sister to lure Cheng to the police station, to make him feel sympathy for the sister so that he could lure him in, take him over, and then go back and change the past. Now, at some point, Tian Chi has ran away. They said, your lost sister. Tian Chi has ran away at some point. Which, that's the only thing making me think that she possibly gave the photo to Lu, because she's like, help. I do think she wrote on the back of the photograph, please help save my good brother. Because she wanted to bring back her brother from the past. Her brother was really kind and considerate, and once he was hit on the head, it's completely altered his personality, or he's gone Akashi, or however you want to say it. And now he's a different person. She's like, I want my good brother back. I want him back. And she's like, my brother now is not good. And you could say it's the head injury. You could say it's the fact that he was traumatized from the death of his parents. You could say it's a lot of things. But, yeah, him pulling off the jacket and revealing that it's him. Mm-hmm. And then we see her in the schoolgirl uniform with the stuffed animal. Yep, her physical description matches. Yep. And what's interesting is that her eyelashes are the same as the brothers now. So the eyelash theory does change a little bit. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And then, yeah, he pulls the wig off. And, yeah, he's pretty maniacal. The Tian Chen looks pretty maniacal in this. You know, like you do. And then Qian is like, I'm not going to show mercy to your sister if she betrays us. So if she ends up getting us caught, I'm not going to be sympathetic towards her. So what do we do now? He's like, do we have any other options? I do like that Cheng gets down on Tian Chen's level to talk to him. Also, he gets so far down on his knees that Tian Chen looks above him, which establishes like that Tian Chen is maybe the one actually in charge of the situation, but he's working with Qian equally. It's interesting. The power dynamic in this scene is fascinating. And he's like, tell me, what do you propose for our final move? Which makes it seem like this is the final act. So are we going to stop Tian Chen and Qian in this moment? I won't be surprised this season if Qian gets stopped and we end up stopping him, but Tian Chen and Tian Chi get away, or vice versa. We're going to stop. I don't know if we're going to stop the whole package at the end of the season, but if we stop part of them, if we manage to stop Tian Chen and Tian Chi, the red eyes, but Qian gets away, or Tian Chen gives Qian his powers, I don't know if we're going to stop both. I don't feel like this is the last season, but I don't know how it's going to end. We still have so many episodes left. And he tells him, and God, Tian Chen is very much like the red eye, because the red eyes that we had in season 1 was so maniacal and sinister that when we saw the twins in this season so far, I was like, well, they don't really seem like the red eyes. No, Tian Chen seems like the red eyes from season 1. Absolutely. And then we have Lu sitting there with the blindfold. Now, we don't get to see his eyes, of course. And even when they show us his eyes later on, I'm like, that could be a red herring too, because again, this series is not wanting to give us who is who, right? Now, does Lu get back in this moment? There is the thing too, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's currently Lu or Cheng in the studio with Tian Chen. I don't know, because it very well could be that Cheng ends up having to tap out at the last second, and when we saw Lu like breathing heavily there, could that be Lu coming back in the body and Cheng leaving? We don't know, right? We don't know. But I hate having to wait an episode to find this out. I hate having to wait finding this out. So we go to the interrogation room, and it is awful. Like, I feel bad for Tian Chen because both her and Cheng, like, grab her, and she's just really, really upset. And Ling takes them all out, and they're like, no, her mental state is inconsistent with her actual age. So they're a little bit older than teenagers, maybe. She could be in her early 20s for all we know. But then they all just feel bad, and she's just, like, hyperventilating. And Ling kind of points it out. She's like, no, Tian Chen could have been impersonating both of them. And then that's when Cheng says, shouldn't he be more worried about his sister? Well, if he thinks he's going to go back and change the past, he doesn't have to be worried about her because he's going to alter the past anyway, and that's going to change the present. So maybe that's why he doesn't care right now. Why would he go to such lengths? He should be the one who can control others. But how do you manage to control both me and Wang Zhang at the same time? I mean, but honestly, though, how do you control them at the same time? I think because he had both of you, he was holding both of you at the same time. I think that that's an easy answer. He was holding both of you at the same time. Then when he handcuffed her and let go of her, she no longer was in control. She was no longer controlled, but he still had a hold of Cheng, and so Cheng was still in control. I think that that's the answer. I think that he can control two people at the same time. He's got two hands, but once he lets go of one, they're no longer in control. I think that's an easy answer. He's like, what are the conditions for activating his ability? Yeah, and Cheng's trying to figure all this out like we are. And I love Ling being MVP Best Big Sister and is like, look. She's like, enter the photo left by Lu to find the answer. And he's like, but choosing to evade will not change history. I believe that the past that has already happened will inevitably exist, even if there are countless possibilities. He sacrificed himself to save you. This is the inevitable destiny. And I kind of, she's like, look, the past has already happened. We're in the present currently. You going back, and it's like, you're just going to create a causality loop. But she's like, eventually, like, you guys are destined to be intertwined anyway. She's like, whatever happens with the time continuum, like, just go back and do what you need to do. Don't hesitate on this. He's like, past or future, let them be. She's like, just go back and do what you can. Because if you don't, then what are we going to do? Yep. And he's like, thank you, Ling. Aw, I love it. And I love that she goes in. Like, I figure Ling could be a psychiatrist. She could be a kindergarten teacher. She could be so many things. I love her method, though. I love that we have 3 chairs there. Again, we have our trio. And right now, Tian Chi's by herself. But I love the idea that Ling comes in and she's so calm and collected. And she's like, look, this is what I did with Cheng when we were kids. And, you know, you'll just talk the same way. And I'm just kind of like, she's so calm and collected and just not asking the questions, like just dancing around it. But it's to lure Tian Chi to feel like she can talk to Ling. And it's so well done. And the flashback where they're little kids, I love her little overalls. And she's trying to get him to drink the milk. And I love that she draws like his face with the nose, like the straw coming out of his nose. And he draws her as a tigress. That's so cute. I love that. And then she's like, he would chug it in one big gulp after that. And then he started scribbling on the milk carton. We're not much different in age. Now he's grown up tall and strong. And sometimes he's a bit careless. Like a kid. Yep. And then he gets, when facing challenges and difficulties. I like that there's a moment of him and Zhao like touching hands to get the phone, which is linked back to that. Okay. And then he decides to go back. Okay. Once he takes the photo, right? When he takes the photo, that's when he comes in. All right. So now the question is, did he send the coordinates from the phone at that moment? We don't know. All we know is that he goes and he destroys the window. And then so then we have the people coming in. Yes, it's a studio. It's a theater set. It's a stage set. We see, okay, the brother puts down something on the table, like clothes and something. I guess those are the clothes that he was using to dress up as a sister, because now he's back in his clothes he was wearing before. And we have Lu tied up there in the chair, right? Seemingly. And then he goes up there, oh my God, bringing his head up and taking the blindfold off. He's like, you're Li Tian Chen, right? He's like, no wonder you're a great partner of Cheng. What a good brain you have. Now, is this Cheng or is it Lu? We don't know. How'd you know about the time and location of our plan? And we see him looking around, like trying to figure out where he is. If I tell you, won't I lose my value? Uh-huh. And he's looking around, like he's trying to figure out, like, how did I get here? What's going on? And then Tian Chen, like, saying, you really annoy me. I regret being too lenient before. Oh my God, the red eyes. But I won't let you die so easily. Oh my God, terrifying. Terrifying. Like, what's he gonna do? And then we have the moment, and we didn't see his face for a reason in that moment, right? At that moment, we see that he decides to go do something. So I guess that means that he was possessing him the whole time, because we go back to this moment, and then he breaks through the window. Yep. So he breaks through the window. Now, then we cut back. When he breaks through the window, we cut back to Lu screaming while he's tied up. So what is he doing? Like, why is he screaming? What is Tian Chen doing to him? And why is he yelling? Like, what is happening? And he shut the door. Or no, that's them trying to get in. So the question is, why was Lu screaming? Like, was Tian Chen, like, did he lean down and like push the wound in more? What was he doing? Or was time changing and Lu going back into his body and Cheng leaving? I don't know. I don't know why he was yelling in that moment. Because he put the phone there. Now, what is she drawing? Like, she's drawing something with a lot of red. So I'm like, is it blood? What is she drawing? We don't get to see what she's drawing as she's sitting there. Tian Chi. We don't get to see what it is. We're not going to get to see till next episode. And then he gets ready to go. But God, the jump scare of when he looks towards the door and he's like, why did I get discovered? And then the guy goes to open up the door, but what is it? And he opens it. So what's going to happen now? Damn it. Damn it! So why was Lu screaming there at the end? What did Tian Chen do to him? What did he do to him? Why was he screaming? Why was he in pain? Was he like pushing on the wound? We don't know. And then, is Cheng going to get discovered in the body of Lu? How's that going to work? Is that going to change the past? And then what is Tian Chi drawing? What are we going to see there? I don't know. I don't know. But we're entering the final act, so we got to save Lu. We also got to save Cheng. So lots of fun stuff to think about. My brain hurts a little bit, but it's okay. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, what you all think, but I'm glad to get some things confirmed this episode, but still so much mystery. It's absolutely ridiculous. So in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with episode 9 of Link Click.